Hi, my name is Rick Shaw. I am the founder and executive director at firstpreventers.org. Firstpreventers.org is a nonprofit organization. We are a 501c3 organization. And today I'd like to talk to you about a very serious topic. It's officers killed in the line of duty. And this can be very traumatic for law enforcement, these incidents, these tragedies. And these tragedies can be very traumatic for communities as well. And we've gotten to a point where first responders deserve better prevention. And first responders need first preventers. So according to data that was taken from the Officer Down Memorial page and the Law Enforcement Officer Killed and Assaulted FBI webpage, in 2018, 185 total deaths in line of duty, 52 by gunfire. 2019, 146, 48 gunfire. In 2020 so far, which has obviously been a kind of a weird year with the pandemic and all, but 81 total, 16 by gunfire. And as we look at the law enforcement officers killed, law enforcement officers killed, what we find is that the LEOCA page identifies them as feloniously killed. And you can see on the far right there that 16 officers were killed by firearms, 3 officers were killed by vehicle. These next couple pages are the law enforcement officers that have been killed in the line of duty so far in 2020. As you can see, they're across all states and going right back to the very first of 2020 on January 5th. What we find when we do the research is that most of these gunfire incidents involved at-risk individuals who were known in their community. And most of the known at-risk individuals were clearly on a pathway to violence. Sadly, the intervention, the monitoring, and prevention efforts failed to prevent these preventable tragedies. So it makes me ask the question, or I always like to ask questions as to why. So why are so many interventions and preventions failing when at-risk individuals were known in their community? And then what can be done at the community level to make communities safer for everyone? So what I'm going to talk about today is the First Preventers program. It consists of strategies, technologies, analytics, and actions. It also consists of the 6 stages of preventing. But I'm going to use a tragedy to help show you how and why this is so important to have a First Preventers program. I'm from Las Vegas. This tragedy hit pretty hard around this area. This is Sergeant Ben Jenkins. He was a Nevada Highway Patrol. He was 47 years old when he was shot and killed. He was married, father of 5 children with 4 grandchildren. And he was killed on March 27th, 2020. This is Sergeant Jenkins' killer. And the information I'm going to share with you was taken from the Las Vegas Review-Journal paper. So, a man accused of fatally shooting the Highway Patrol trooper had spent the weeks leading up to the killing on a paranoid quest to warn people in White Pine County of his theory that COVID-19 was spreading through the water and sewer systems. In the weeks leading up to the killing, the White Pine County Sheriff's Office was contacted after 3 of the known incidents involving the killer. According to interviews with 3 members of the White Pine County community who had encountered the killer prior to the shooting, his obsession with the virus began around March 4th. On that day, he showed up at the Sewer and Water District wearing a large mask, ranting about COVID-19, demanding to speak to an engineer or water operator. And he had this paper in his hand, according to one of the employees. He was getting really aggressive with off-the-wall stuff. And he threw himself down the chair talking about virus comes from sewers and his wife is a famous scientist. During that same encounter, another employee emerged, and he asked the man if he was sick. The killer said yes. The response was, "You probably shouldn't be in public." Now, because the killer hadn't made any threats to them that day, they did not call authorities. Even though when the killer or this person left, it wasn't a killer at the time, but when this person left, one of the employees left her feeling unsettled. Now this is one of the big gaps we have out there, is that, and why we need first preventers. Because first responders, typically law enforcement, their hands are tied. They can't do much if there's no crime, no threats. But these are all concerning behaviors and pre-incident indicators that need to be collected, shared, and assessed. That's those 6 stages I was talking about. And they need to be addressed by a team of people who can take action. Let's keep going. So about a week later, after the Water District office, the killer was hospitalized at a hospital, local hospital. According to a hospital employee who wanted to remain anonymous, the killer came into the hospital for issues unrelated to mental health, but soon was placed on a legal mental health hold after he began wandering the halls, and he brought a concerning note to the nurses' station. According to the employee, the killer told the hospital staff he had $30,000 worth of illegal, untraceable weapons, and he wanted to save us from the suffering of coronavirus. The killer remained at the hospital until he was transferred from the facility around March 14th. The man's whereabouts after he left the hospital are unclear, but according to the employee, he returned to the hospital about a week later on March 21st, which prompted assistance from the sheriff's office because he was trespassing. So here we have mental health and healthcare. They also had indicators, pre-incident indicators, concerning behaviors, mental health hold. They had other pieces of the puzzle that again could have been very easily been collected in a First Preventers platform and shared with a First Preventers team, just the appropriate team members who could be taking actions and connecting the dots. So now 2 days later, after the hospital, he showed up at the newspaper. And when he showed up, he had a flash drive in his hand. He was wearing a neon green face mask. And he wanted to take out a full-page ad with his name, date of birth, and a symbol. Now, according to the reporter, the killer, this guy was known to have a house that had spray painted various symbols and wording, some expletive, all over his house. He said he had the best story and it was going to blow my mind. It had to do with the coronavirus. So again, now we've got other people in the community who are aware of concerning behaviors. Now, the newspaper writer basically said that his behavior was uncomfortable, very in your face, and no personal space. He said she said the conversation was very erratic and it didn't make sense. Though she said she wasn't threatened, the reporter sent an email to the sheriff's office, which apparently instructed her to lock her doors and be careful. Again, I want to emphasize, I'm not knocking law enforcement here because there was no crime. But we need first preventers because first responders can't always act. And that's why first preventers are absolutely needed. So the next day, he shows up at the Ely Justice Court and he delivered a box with concerning content. It prompted the courthouse staff to contact law enforcement. Further details about the content are not known at this time, and the sheriff's office has not responded to requests. So again, now we've got more people in the community, court system and law enforcement again, who have more pieces of the puzzle. But again, all of these pieces of the puzzle are stuck in silos. They're not being collected, they're not being shared, they're not being assessed, they're not being connected, and they're not being acted on. Now during this time, that other things were going on, the killer began sending his ex-wife a stream of rambling emails. They were definitely strange and incoherent, she said. It seemed like he had gone completely off the rails. She got spooked. She deleted most of the messages. So now again, this is another classic example, or common I should say, where ex-family members, as well as existing family members, and others also may observe concerning behaviors. But sometimes it's hard for them to come forward, and this is where maybe an anonymous option and other things like that, other tools like that, would allow them to come forward and share these very, very important pieces of the puzzle. So again, the First Preventers program is all about giving communities and even counties, countywide, the ability for people to click on a butterfly, the butterfly effect, where one small thing can make a huge difference. And the butterfly is involved throughout the process because not only is the butterfly going to collect this information, it's going to automatically share it with teams that have been predefined, so you've got the appropriate people that are getting notified. Those team members, threat assessment team, whatever they might be called, then have the tools so they can assess and connect the dots, get involved with intervention and monitoring so that prevention can be a success. Now you might be saying, that all sounds great, Rick, but does this work? Well, it does. And this is a headline of a case study that was done in the ASIS Security Management Magazine. And there happens to be a county in Nebraska called Sarpy County who has rolled this platform, these technologies, these strategies out. And reporting threats are as easy as clicking a button, as it says in the article. Anyone with internet access can report suspicious behavior and activity by clicking the red square, and that's how they've got it set up, located on the websites of county schools and law enforcement. Now, it's important that I point out, in this case, they use schools, but there's the hospital, there's the water utility, there's many other places that are non-law enforcement that can be utilized to collect information across a community and across a county. And they've been doing this in Sarpy County since 2016, and the results have been incredible. So I don't want to just let you think it was just one example. As I was going through many of these officers that were killed on duty, I found some really sad stories. This was another one. These were two officers that were killed in January of 2020. Officer Enriquez, 38 years old. Officer Kalama, 34 years old. They were both shot and killed in Honolulu. And what we saw here, or what we see here, I should say, is back in May of 2019, so 7 months roughly before, the killer on the left was, and that's Officer Enriquez in the middle, they had met because of misuse of 911 emergency services. Now, in addition, at that time, the killer had 4 temporary restraining orders against him from neighbors. He thought the government was tapping his phones, and as it turns out, he was due in court January 21st for these false 911 call charges. So again, we have a situation here and kind of an eerie picture where you've got the killer and the officer in the same picture 7 months before she was killed. But again, we have a known at-risk individual where First Preventers could have gotten involved before We waited until there was a crime or a tragedy. So research reveals there's just way too many outdated strategies. There's way too many gaps and silos and disconnects across communities and counties. Research and data clearly exposes that it is time to rethink how to make communities safer for officers and for everyone. You know, this is the patch that all of the highway patrolmen are wearing in Nevada now. But first responders, their families, and their loved ones, they deserve better prevention results. Every community, and this is, you know, pretty much everyone in the community is a first preventer, and every community has first preventers who want to help and who can deliver better prevention. So please don't wait for a tragedy. Start your First Preventers program today. And you can start by taking action as soon as this video is over. Because the thing is, you can go straight out to firstpreventers.org. You can download information. You can ask for more information, which we hope you do. But also, we want to help you because there are grants, there are foundations, there are donation opportunities, crowdsourcing, things like that, crowdfunding. There's public safety funds, there's terrorism funds, there's red flag law funds. You know, there's funding out there, there's money out there, there's people out there who do not want officers and community members to be killed or have their lives ruined by at-risk individuals who could have been, instead of being on a pathway to violence, we could have used that as a pathway to prevention. So again, please reach out. We want to help you guys, and we know it works. So please reach out, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Thank you, and have a great day.